Welcome to day 2. And today, let's see what the box has to offer us. Something tasty. We have a candy cane. Well, I have 5 kids, so candies is a big deal during festive time, and I couldn't leave this challenge without a candy cane. Let's do. Our day 2 subject is candy cane lollipop. Removing excess amount with an elastic eraser, so I have as less graphite marks as possible. Mixing watercolors. We need a lot of pink. This candy cane lollipop will be pink, and I'm taking permanent rose with a touch of lemon yellow. I want this pink to be with a little touch of warmth, adding a little bit more of pink and a little bit more of red. Let's add red. Yes, I like this color. On a piece of paper we can always test. Like it very much. Now I need shadow, which is very similar watercolor mix with a touch of lemon yellow, not too much. Remember adding pigments gradually so you see where the change happened. A little bit more pink and Sennelier red, and I will add Perlin maroon for the color to slightly make it darker. Perfect. And Lollipop Bow will be in the same colors. This little stick is usually white, maybe slightly beige. I will mix gray color, not beige. I will mix gray, so this lollipop stick is white, but in a shadow it is gray. So for gray watercolor mix, we need yellow, but small amount. We don't need dark gray, we need very light gray. A little touch of red, second primary color, and little touch of blue, third primary color. A little bit more of blue because now it is more like brown, but I need gray. From primaries we can mix brown and we can mix gray. A little touch of blue, and this color mix should be really pale. That will do. Everything is ready to start painting. I will zoom in closer, so we will start with the candy. Candy cane will have pink sections, and then in between those pink sections there will be like more of cream color, so we will mix that as well from primaries, but we will start with the pink sections. Round synthetic brush, small amount of water, and I'm applying in the first section. Not too much, but no puddles, just enough so you can move water. I'm lifting paper so I also can see how much I am applying. Starting with light mix. And we need to create this lollipop 3-dimensional. So there's also shadow and light area. And lollipops have glossy surface, so we need light area, very light, almost like as white as paper. And outer parts are slightly darker. Careful with outer edges. And first layer is very light. And applying watercolors, always go lighter We can always add darkness as we go. Taking slightly darker color, and I can add it here where it is the darkest. Washing my brush, cleaning in paper towel, and smoothing applied watercolors. And adding this darkness also to the outer edge, which is in the shadow as well, as it goes away from us, goes away from light source, meaning it becomes slightly darker. Okay, now we can move to the next one, which is this one. Applying water. And we'll repeat this to other sections. First layer for the pink part is done. Now we need cream color. Its lollipops have this cream, and for that I'm taking yellow. Small amount again. We don't need a lot. We need very light color of beige cream color. This is alizarin crimson, red pigment, and tiny touch of blue because we don't need it to make it gray too much. So you see how tiny I am adding my watercolors. Testing. And I have this color of cream. I will also in some places will add a tiny touch of pink because white surface, which is very close to cream color, reflects everything that is around. And especially here on the lower part, it will be reflecting shadows and something from 𝗡𝗊. And the approach is the same, starting with water. Now be sure that you're not going into pink sections. Slowly taking light amount of pink, and we need to add it for now very lightly in the shadow, leaving light, and then closer to the center where the lollipop goes like into, kind of slightly goes inwards, creating this illusion of roundness. It should be really pale at this moment. Better to be pale, and rather than fighting, dealing with consequences of very dark brown spots on your lollipop. We don't need that. Now here I'm adding here. I'm leaving also here and here and here and here. Little, as you can see, lighter part. That's a reflected light area that I want to add blue later on. Blue or very pale violet. We'll see. But now I'm going really gradually. I want to be sure that my lollipop looks tasty. That's the important part, to make it look tasty. So you look at it, oh yeah, that's the lollipop, I know, and I want to have it. That's how it should look. And careful with outer edges, applying slowly. So here in the shadow, I want to add a little bit of pink, like tiny touch. Like it slightly reflects what is happening around. And smooth. Also here, I want to have this slightly pink color while it's still a little bit wet. Be sure that you're adding it really gradually. So as you can see, this light line, it kind of feels that it's almost as a line because I am trying to be consistent with where my light is, and it looks that it's shiny. Even with this super pale amount of watercolors, it already looks shiny and with volume. Now here we have shadow here with this touch of pink as well. A little bit more. And in the middle as well, leaving light area unpainted. Tiny touch of pink into this shadow. And now here, same approach, careful, slowly, no puddles. Shadow here. I will definitely add more, but now I'm really happy how light it is. Yes, perfect. And the last one up here. Here we have shadow slightly in the beginning and on the edges. It's darker in the middle. I need a little bit darker in the middle. Now this is first layer. It already looks shiny, and that is what we are looking for. Now next layers we'll be building layers of the same watercolor mixes. I will mix another small amount of this cream color. Remember, starting slowly, more yellow and red. A little bit more red and tiny touch of blue. A little bit more. Really tiny touch. So you get cream, not gray. I want to add to this mix a little bit more of Sennelier red. Let's see how it goes. A little bit of transparent yellow. I want to have my lollipop even juicier, and tiny touch of pink. Now next layers will be about building contrast and some additional details. And here I'm going with fine lines, starting from the shadow. And towards light. I will go around and add more shadow in this middle section. Be very precise with the center. We will have different subjects where we can be a little bit maybe more freer brush strokes, but like this kind of realistic shiny subject requires some precision to achieve that result. Very slowly. And building contrast, it does help making it more shinier and juicier in terms of taste. And as I'm applying these darker lines, I'm also kind of correcting edges where they slightly went over the edge. Here I have little, and I can correct them as I add shadow, as I add next layer. And all my brush strokes are towards the light area. Now let's add where we have visible shadow. Tiny brush strokes. This is a wonderful way to practice brush strokes. Now washing my brush, cleaning in paper towel, and we'll slightly go over, making these brush strokes a little bit smoother. And these ones as well. I can go with a bigger synthetic brush. It's more appropriate for smoothing, but we can do that as well later. Now here we have an area. You can turn around your painting as you feel more comfortable with. Slowly building layers. Here more careful. We have this beautiful heart shape on top. I want to keep this. Also, my brush strokes are following the form of this lollipop. If it slightly goes to the side, then my brush strokes are also going to the side. As this is not a flat subject, it has volume, we need to have this reflected light areas. Little something, but makes a difference. We can build a little bit longer lines here as well. Now for the lollipop, I want to add, using shadow color, like a line that is separating. You can add it if you are sure about your fine lines. If you're not so sure, I would better advise to not add this line. My line goes a little bit wiggly. It does take a lot of concentration. There's also like an edge, especially closer in the center. Not the perfect line. First one went well. Second one goes better. That's always like that. Yeah, second one is much way better. Zooming in closer so you better see what I'm doing. So I'm adding I'm like painting with one last bristle on my brush. Don't rush this. Slowly, slowly. Like this. And then I'm also adding here in the middle this little circle. Adding a little bit there. Like little rounder shadow. And next line goes here. And then another one goes here. I'm not breathing while I'm doing this. Reminding myself, keep breathing, keep breathing. Concentration do take a lot. This kind of concentration takes a lot of attention. Okay, lines are done. Lines are done, and I want to build more, of course, more. For example, here I can clearly see that this area is needs to go way darker. And in a minute we'll show you what we will do with those reflected light areas. This one definitely needs to go more darker. Careful not to go too dark too quickly. Building layers gradually. Slowly, lollipop becoming more and more realistic thanks to layers, thanks to attention to details. And as with new layer, I'm making those light areas smaller and smaller. Now let's add a little bit more to the shadows that we need here on the cream part. It's very lightly becoming darker in the shadow and a little bit more closer to the center. Now, one important thing, these white edges, if you have them, they are becoming slightly darker as it reaches center. I'm just very lightly glazing over them because they're too white and they're standing out, but I want to make this whole section that is around the center to go darker, so it does create the illusion that it goes deeper into the lollipop, and white edges will be only where the shiniest part is. So even white parts, when they go into the shadow, they become slightly darker. They can't stay completely white as paper. It doesn't make sense. Even white has shadow. So now I'm gonna have this like a little bit of edge where the lollipop starts to bend and goes to the thickness. That goes like this. Now about this reflected light area, so I'm taking round synthetic brush and I'm taking manganese violet on the side, which should be really light amount, and I'm going there and glazing. It should be really light. It should be smooth. It will give an illusion that it goes away from us, it's more rounder than it looks. Reflected light areas do this. They create the illusion that the subject is round. Without reflected light area, it can feel that the subject is flat. Why violet? Because we have warm in the shadow and cool colors in the light. So warm is violet, and blue would be in the shiny spots in the there. But violet is perfect for this area, for reflected light area. Need to make it a little bit more visible. It will look better. And it does give a nice touch. Gives a nice touch. Now, if you did add these lines, these very thin lines, that those lines in the shadow are even darker because they go into the shadow. So that's what I'm doing right now. Adding more darkness to those lines. And we can build a little bit more of shadow here as well. I need to push a little bit more with intensity and contrast, even in the cream area, because I need to make it look more rounder. And contrast will help me in achieving that. Adding to my beige cream color pink. And it looks more rounder because I'm adding these additions. Okay, now we need to paint a bow and a stick and then see what else we can add. I will start with a stick. We have our gray color. There should be really intense shadow under the lollipop. So I will go and add quite intense amount of watercolors. I need to make this area, this beautiful cast shadow, to stand out. And smooth the edge so it's not so sharp. And the rest of the stem as well. First water, and then this gray color that we pre-mixed on the right side where the shadow is. And under the bow it also is quite dark because bow is creating shadow there. Now we can add a little bit more stronger as it is on top, and a little bit more stronger here as well. And here as well. Now maybe it looks strange without the bow, but it will make sense. And now a pink bow. Using same watercolors, or you can, I know, you can paint it green, you can paint it blue. It's up to you. It's your card. You can change things. So we have very careful adding shadows and leaving light area. Washing my brush, cleaning in paper towel and smoothing. So there's a little bit more of smoothness in these transitions. Now adding water. Color here. And color here. Very carefully blending, but keeping this light areas and very light first layer. Now this inner part is way darker. I'm going with watercolors, not water, straight with watercolors. we have a darker area there. While the surface is still slightly moist. And adding a little bit there as well, and smoothing what I just applied. Adding a little bit more darkness closer to the inner part. And moving to the opposite side. First water, only to the upper part of the bow. Taking watercolors. Now here we have slightly different where the light is and where the shadow is. It's more closer to the edge, darker. Then there should be a gap for light, and then it's darker again here. With the bow, it's always different. Here we have light closer to the center, and here it should be closer to the outer part. And we have darker area. Create that as well. Washing my brush and smoothing what I just applied so there are no crisp areas. And going straight with watercolors to the inner part. Careful painting with the tip of the brush. Like this. And now we have these two ribbons, little tails, applying water. I need a new mix of color because I'm always run out. Pink, red, touch of yellow, a little bit more red, a little bit more pink, and Perlin Maroon was there as well. My surface is still wet. After you just mixed watercolors, I would not recommend going with that brush straight to the painting because when you are mixing, your brush has more pigment than you need. So even it seems kind of sad to wash away that amount of pigment. It's better to wash away rather than go to your painting, because then it will be just too much, and you can get too saturated with that amount of watercolors. Smoothing towards the outer part, which is way lighter. I'm doing same on the opposite side. Water first. Watercolors darker closer to the base, and then it becomes lighter towards the outer part. A little bit more darkness, definitely. And a little bit more here as well. There's like a little fold. And here as well, but it needs to dry a little bit. Then with very light touch, adding side edge. With the last bristle on your brush. And now we can build also layers on the bow by building contrast. And this is where you can go more detailed, less detailed, it's up to you. Need to set correctly tonal values and build layers. Our candy cane lollipop is in the finishing stage. Of course, you can spend more time and it's definitely welcome. I am zooming out to have a look at the overall and whole. I want to add a little bit more here and there. Contrast. For example, I want to add a little bit more darker shadow here under the candy cane and right under the bow to make it even more stand out. And then shadow area. So now it's the time that everything is in places, everything is painted, and you can go and add more details, add more contrast, add more layers. Your painting will only start to look more and more realistic. It's up to you now how far you want to push this all. And as the white, remember I was telling you the white reflects everything that is around. So also the white, almost white stick is reflecting a little bit from pink. Adding that as well, on top as well. A little bit of pink in the shadow, only in the shadow area. Like this. Smoothing. Need to push contrast, especially especially closer to the shadow area is the darkest where it is starting. So the subject that is causing shadow, that's where shadow is the darkest. Pushing limits there. And it does help. It makes it more pop. Then I want to push shadow. I'm taking alizarin crimson on my palette. A little bit more of alizarin crimson. And I want to add transparent yellow. And more alizarin crimson. Alizarin crimson is red pigment, but more to the pink side. And remember, I was telling you that when you mixed watercolors, always wash your brush. So I need to push shadow here because this is shadow area. It needs to go darker. So I need to push my shadows a little bit more so it looks more realistic. So I want to do that definitely. And there's this edge where it goes. Like creating. And also here needs to push the darkness even more. So now is the time that you are kind of finalizing and adjusting. And you can decide how far you want to push with this because this is your work and you can decide. So I want to push a little bit more with contrast here and there because it kind of feels that it needs more. It's lacking. It's lacking that darkness. And also I want to push here. It kind of needs a little bit more. Especially where the border is, where the edge happens to be. Don't overpaint reflected light area. And building more and more contrast does help. And we can push in the center. The more brighter it becomes, the more juicier, shinier. Carefully, don't rush this stage. I went a little bit overboard, so quickly going and removing with clean and dry brush. Smoothing edges. Now I'm taking round synthetic brush. Very pale amount of watercolors. And I wanna add a little bit of smoothness. Lightly overpainting that shiny spot. And also going to reflected light area and going here, kind of making everything feel connected. This is one lollipop, even with different sections. These white edges, overpainting them with very light amount of glaze, calming down shiny spots. Then this one also can go a little bit more smoother. And as you can see, I'm overpainting everything, but the amount of watercolors is very pale on my brush. Even after drying, it will become less visible. But this side is becoming darker because of the actions that I'm doing right now. I want to push a little bit more here where the edge is. I want to add there a little touch of Perlin Violet, but a little bit scared. I don't want to lose the beautiful lightness. But that will definitely push. And slightly smoothing this one, calming down. Need a little bit more intensity here. And in the middle. I need to make this part of shiny spot slightly smaller. Then it will look more realistic and more shinier. Smoothing. Okay, I'm taking a small amount of Perlin Violet, but to this Perlin Violet I will add pink and Sennelier Red. We'll see how it will go. Okay, this is a very strong mix, so be careful. And I'm washing my brush and loading with watercolors, so I want to push a little bit here. Yes, perfect. Very lightly, do this really lightly here. Turning. Okay. Yes, this, I love the contrast. I feel like I'm lacking a little bit here. Just a tiny bit. A little bit here. Definitely here. Need to show volume. Now it looks kind of flat. And on top of here. They are the lightest ones, but still they need some tonal values. Okay, now it looks more realistic. Some places need a little bit smoothing. Some places need a little bit of, for example, this white edge need color. It can't be as bright as it is now. The same here. This one. Okay, and we can add a little bit more to the bow as well. Need to push darkness in some places. When you are pushing contrast in the shadow, please don't do that to the entire area. For example, here I'm pushing shadow closer to the bow. It doesn't mean that I need to cover everything, only where it is the darkest. That's it. Now I need to push darkness right behind this knot. And on the opposite side as well. I like these cross brush strokes because it kind of makes bow feel the fabric texture. Need a little bit more contrast here. Need a little bit more contrast definitely here. Smoothing. I am now in the finishing stage, but I am so enjoying this process. Hope you too, and hope you had a wonderful second day of the challenge.